All right, we are now being recorded. My name's Candy Cook. I am a broker and an appraiser. I'm certified general, so yes, I'm a commercial appraiser. I started out in real estate in Texas in 1983 as a commercial property manager. I managed approximately 1 million square feet for 5 years in the beginning. As the market started to crash down, I thought I was going to jump out and get away from commercial real estate and immediately jumped into the appraisal world. So I got licensed in 1988 because prior to that I always worked for the people who owned the buildings and I didn't have to have any type of licensing. I started appraising in 88. I got my real estate license in 88. I was able to get my broker's license in 2 years. I have been active in Central Texas since that time, depending on where the economy was and what I was doing, whether I was doing commercial, whether I was doing residential, whether I was doing commercial appraisals, whether I was doing residential appraisals. I've even thrown in auditing appraisal districts at one point during the 90s for the school district funding. So I have lots of pieces where I have worked with all facets of real estate. So today we're going to talk about valuations. And if I don't start off with the lecture from TREC and TALCB, I would be remiss. We've come forward, and it really started about December of last year. TALCB as well as TREC. TALCB is the Texas Appraiser Licensing and Certification Board. They are the licensing agency for our appraisers. They came forward, the legislature has defined that the appraisers can do opinion of value in an appraisal, and they've defined that real estate license holders can do a comparative market analysis or broker price of opinion. We have to define the difference between value and price. Price is what your clients want to get. They want to get the best price. They want to get the highest amount of money for their property. The buyers want to get the best price without spending too much money. Value is where we come in and talk about what the property shows for equity to support any type of financing. Because of our ups and downs in the real estate market over the last 35, 40 years, Washington has continued to strap down onto the lenders and the appraisers as to how to defend what a property is truly worth. So TREC says that we can use the word value, but very cautiously. As a real estate license holder, we are not supposed to say we can value the property unless we also hold the license as an appraiser. We can talk about price all day long. We can do a market analysis, and we have all of those products available to you, but we have to make sure we don't step over the line, okay? One of the things that happened is prior to 1994, there was no licensing for appraisers. And each year, it gets a little more strict and a little more strict. My first license when I was able to go get one was for certified general, which means that I can appraise any type of property in the state of Texas. Now they keep making more and more rules, and they've actually stated that we have to have a bachelor's degree to be a commercial appraiser. Then add in that we have to serve 3,000 hours as a trainee under another supervising appraiser, and we can't do that in less than 30 months. So this is something that as it gets stricter and stricter, we're finding that some of our appraisers are not truly interested in staying in the business. We have what is called a perceived shortage of appraisers. NAR has been paying attention to this, and we have a real property valuation committee that has been going to meet with the different stakeholders, including the Appraisal Foundation, as to how do we get more appraisers into this business. We have a statistic that gets kind of scary when we start talking about it. 11% of the appraisers in the United States are over the age of 66. I believe that the statistic states that there are more appraisers over the age of 80 than under the age of 30. So we don't have people coming into the business. 51% of the appraisers are 51 to 65. So 62% of all the people doing valuations are 51 and older. Where are we going to be in 15 years? We just don't know how this is going to pan out. Okay? We actually have 24% are between 36 and 40. That comes up to 86. So there's only 14% of all the appraisers are under 30. Please be careful when we start talking about where we're going and what's going to happen with appraising and valuations and how it affects your commercial real estate. 2/3 of our appraisers have already been in business for 15 years. So you should be able to find someone who has the competency and the experience to appraise just about anything that is out there. However, our business has taken off in the last 3 years, and there are not enough appraisers to provide you with that market value going forward. Turn times, in the bad years, turn times are a week. In the good years, it could be out to 6 weeks. Okay, so you go into a transaction. Thank goodness a commercial transaction does not move as quickly as what a residential one does. The commercial appraisers may show up and inspect the property now, and you may not hear anything else from them for 4 to 5 weeks. They actually write an entire manual. Someone asked me when I was doing a lot of commercial appraisals what I did for a job, and I said, I write a new book of 100 to 150 pages every 3 weeks. For someone who hated composition in college, this was just a miserable profession for me to go in, but I didn't know it. I didn't have a choice. So we have to get competency when we're beginning to work with commercial, and we have to have competency in setting a sales price or a listing price. TREC has very specific rules as to being competent, and as someone who goes into commercial real estate, you need to take as many classes as you possibly can. Over the years, I've taken numerous different classes, and I've taken some from the Appraisal Institute. I've taken some from IREM. I've even done my master's in real estate brokerage management at Realtor University. Every day you have to be learning and understanding to be able to claim that you're competent. And we know that TREC sometimes focuses down on us and really tries to make us toe the line by showing that you have continually tried to go out and tried to obtain more information. It helps you to be able to say you're competent. I'm going to address Article 11 of the Code of Ethics. Sometimes when we talk to commercial agents and brokers, they don't see the benefits of all the code. But Code of Ethics says that you must be competent. And if you're not, you need to notify your clients whether you're competent or not. There are very specific guidelines. If you're going to provide any kind of a market opinion, there are very specific items that you need to include in your price evaluation. When you talk about it, do yourself a favor, print out the Code of Ethics or just pull up Article 11, and it says the things that you have to do when you are doing a CMA or a BPO. The other thing is that I'm going to go back to the TREC rules. TREC rules state that if you're going to give any kind of a market analysis or a price opinion, you need to use 535.17b of the TREC rules, which is actually this statement that says this is not an appraisal. This is a comparative market analysis or a broker price opinion, and it does not comply with the uniform standards of professional appraisal practice. So you have to make sure that you provide that along with any kind of estimates of price that you're giving. And the second part of that, or it's actually C of that rule, says the item in B needs to be repeated verbatim. As a commercial person, I'm going to say to you, get used to putting that in on everything where you're quoting price. If you Google 535.17B, you will find that we have a broker/appraiser who has lost all of his licenses. And he lost his broker's license because he did not include 535.17B. How many of you may have even known that you had to include this statement? And yet you'll send out an email to somebody and say, you know, I've been doing all the research and it appears that we should list your property for $1.5 million. As soon as you give that opinion, it would be in your best interest to be sure that you put that disclaimer in that this is not an appraisal. Okay? And I see some people nodding, saying, yes, yeah, we understand that. We know that we have to stay on top of all of these issues. I had a conversation with a commercial appraiser on my way into doing this webinar. And I said, what kinds of pearls of wisdom could she add to my conversation with you guys? And one of the things is we and I talk about it in both residential and in commercial. Texas is a non-disclosure state. We all know that. Commercial, your owners quite often are adamant that we're not going to disclose any information. However, how can we do a viable CMA or BPO as a license holder, or how can we do a viable appraisal as an appraiser if we can't get accurate data? And so this commercial appraiser said to me, and she also holds a license as a real estate agent. She's been in longer than I have. She said, Candy, she said, we need the disclosures. We need, I know we have the ability to put information into CoStar. Quite often we don't want to put it in there. Our owners say, no, we don't want it to be disclosed. However, for an appraiser to use data that needs to be included in an appraisal, we're required to confirm it. And if we can't confirm it, we can't use it. Okay? So we start to have some problems with getting appraisals done in a timely manner. And not that I'm pointing to anybody in the webinar, but we find that as appraisers, when we call license holders and ask for confirmation, quite often they won't even call us back. They ignore us. They refuse to deal with the problem of confirming information. And yet you'll get mad at the appraisers when we don't get our jobs done in a timely manner. Okay. I just had, and I'm going to address questions as we go along so that I don't get too far past it. Bob asked that I give the TREC BPO number again. It is 535.17B, as in boy. And when you go to look for it, you can actually Google just that number and you can get the statement to come up. I believe it was also included on the April of 2015 TREC Advisor front page. There's several places where it's included, and you can just copy and paste it. If you're using an MLS, such as the Austin Board or Metrotex or somebody, your CMA program through their services, actually have that statement included. I'm going to be very clear that RPR, Realtor Property Resource, does not actually have that document added on, that if you're going to do something in a private way, that you have to add it in because it's a state law, not a national law. Hang on, okay?
I think RPR may be adding it.
Okay, Kinski just said she believes that RPR may be adding it. Please check, and every once in a while check on any service that you're using. I was lecturing or speaking at Metrotex and said something about it, and somebody looked it up while I was speaking, and it turned out that when Matrix updated, they left off half the statement. So I got a thank you from Netris thanking me for calling their attention to it and saving all their different agents from being hammered by this. Okay, so let's go back to that confirmation. When an appraiser has to go out and oh, we have another question. Hang on, I can't get this to slide up. Oh, no, I've got it. I don't have to see me. Another question they just asked is 535.17B required for residential CMAs as well? Yes, it's required. It doesn't differentiate between residential and commercial. Maybe because we're concentrating, it looks like you want to look at this 535 a little bit. Let's go back to another statement in the previous section, 535.16C. actually states that as a license holder, you are obligated to provide a CMA or a BPO when negotiating a listing. So we'll work our way down through this statement. 535.16C says you have to provide some kind of estimate of price. And when I teach this, I teach CMA classes for residential. When I teach this, I actually indicate that you want to put something in writing to your clients or future clients. They may just be customers at this point. Recommendation is don't leave that estimate behind unless you have a signed listing agreement with them, because you don't want them to use that information without you. It's your promotion. It's why someone should hire you. A risk reduction that I recommend is to also have someone sign and date that document, put it in your file. And people say, well, I'm not going to keep it if I'm not going to get the listing. Discussion with Trek indicated that we probably should consider keeping our CMAs or BPOs for the 4 years in case anybody ever complains and says you didn't do a CMA or a BPO. You can pull this document out and say, here's what I provided to them previously. There's another hiccup in 535.16C that says that if you're purchasing the property for your own use, you are obligated to provide the seller with a CMA or a BPO. And this riles everybody up, because why would we give someone who is represented a CMA or a BPO? And I had a long conversation with Trek at one point, and they said there are no ifs, ands, or buts in that statement. You are obligated to provide a CMA or a BPO to the seller if you're buying it for your own use. Okay? Kind of confusing, isn't it? Gets a little sticky in here. So I had several people kind of come after me on this and said, why is it so strict that we do this? And I said, I believe it's because Trek ends with a C and Trek protects the consumer. Somewhere a consumer may have said, we had a license holder who took advantage of us. Okay? So putting together something, you have to have something that goes to that seller and shows them why you think the property should sell for what you say it should, even if you're the buyer in that transaction. Okay. Again, document that you have done that, because when Trek comes back to look in the files, we're starting to see 535.16C quoted in the disciplinary actions. And this document has been around, I believe, for at least 17 years. This rule in some form or another has been in place. It just did not seem that anybody had actually requested this information. How can we open him?
Yeah, keep talking now.
Okay, Greg, we're going to. Would you?
He's in the chat, I think, as opposed to the Q&A.
Okay. Oh, he's in chat? No. We have somebody, Greg's raising a hand, but I can't see where he is.
Keep going, I'll find him.
All righty.
I'm determined.
She's determined to find us.
Right.
So, you know, quite often we roll through and we think we understand all the pieces that we are obligated to provide, and then all of a sudden we have something like this rule that pops up and truly surprises some of the people. Quite often I'll be speaking in front of a large group of people, and I'll have a broker who's been in business for 25 or 30 years. They get very agitated when I start speaking about these two parts of the TREC rules, both 535.16C and 535.17B. So you're number one, TREC says you have to be competent, as does the Code of Ethics. Then we bring in 535.16C, and you have to do a CMA. Can you just pull it out of the air and do your CMA or BPO or whatever you want to call it? Just don't call it a broker opinion of value. We're no longer allowed to use that terminology, okay? So you have to be competent, and you don't have a truly viable source of comparables. So now you're going to have to go out and confirm this data, try to find information, because listings are not true indicators of price. Our sold comparables are. He just raised his hand by accident, so we're okay. We're good. Thanks, Greg. Okay. Someone just asked, can they have a copy of the recording? You ladies will take care of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, do they need to email you?
Nope. It'll be on our website,
okay,
on the commercial webinar page of the website by the end of the week.
Okay. So I'm being told that the recording of this webinar will be on the commercial webinar page by the end of the week. All right. So you have to be able to do your CMA. You have to be able to do it in a valid manner, okay? And the Code of Ethics requires us to include some information. When an opinion, and I'm going to not use the word value, I'm going to use price as prepared, we really are supposed to identify some things, okay? And it says, other than in pursuit of a listing, but these are some of the items that you probably want to identify and may set up in a separate document that can be emailed to your clients or your customers. You want to identify exactly what the subject property is. One of the reasons we do this is some people will think that their property is 1 acre, and then we have somebody else come in and say, oh no, by the way, it's actually 2 acres, okay? We want to make sure that we have identified exactly what it is that we're going to give an opinion of price on. You notice I didn't say value again. Put down the date it was prepared. As our market goes up and down, your opinion should be tied to a specific date, not if you say in June that the property should sell for this sales price. and we get to December when everything's slugged down, we're able to go back and address, when we gave this opinion, the market was busy. In the winter months, we may slow down, okay? You need to define what value or price you're actually giving. Sales price, how long will it take to sell this property at this price, okay? Number 5 in the list is kind of interesting. It says any contemplated interest, including the possibility of representing the seller, a landlord, or buyer tenants. You have to disclose if there's a chance that you're going to do this. When we start talking about putting a sales price on something, we also are supposed to say whether we're involved in the middle of this or we're not involved in it, okay? All the way down through, then another thing is did you do a physical inspection? I know you don't have to have this when we're talking to somebody who wants to list their property, but it's a risk reduction. Having all of these items already answered, and you can put this into a format. You can actually go to the Code of Ethics, pull this down, put it into a format where you can customize it for each person, add it on to your opinion, okay, and go forward. Also, you can include that document about the 535.17B in on the same document. It's just trying to keep yourselves out of trouble. We need to disclose whether we have competency in doing that type of property also. And, you know, when you go out, when you're doing residential, you have a lot more transactions and a lot more inventory to deal with. And when you're going out to put a value, or sales price, oh, I almost used the V word on that one. When you're going out to put a sales price on a commercial property, I can tell you I've got called to go look at theater. I actually was doing work in Massachusetts at the time, but it doesn't change anything. On a theater, I've done a storage yard for telephone trucks. All of these different items, you go out and you're trying to figure out how to do this. Competency requirements say if we're not competent, we need to let our clients know and also say what we're going to do to become competent. And sometimes I have people who kind of come at me and start beating me up over appraisers not being competent. Sometimes we can't find an appraiser to go to a certain area. Right now, everybody's so busy they won't go outside of the cities because the data that's in the country is very limited. We have trouble confirming it. And so you might have a commercial building in Marble Falls, or a commercial building in Hearne, Texas, or a commercial building in DeSoto, or almost anywhere, and we have to try to find somebody who can help put a price on that, and then we have to find an appraiser who can do a market value on that. Just as TREC requires the license holders to be competent, and TALCB requires them to be competent, the appraisers also have the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. This is put out by the Appraisal Foundation, which is a federal entity, quasi-entity, and it says that an appraiser must be competent, or prior to accepting the assignment, they must notify the client that they are not competent or they're incompetent. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't know very many commercial appraisers who want to use the word incompetent along with anything that they're saying to one of their clients. Make sure that the people who are coming out to work on your properties actually are able to do the job. Can they get the information? Are they familiar with what type of valuation needs to be done? We have to just take all of these pieces, and sometimes we have the feeling that as license holders, as agents and brokers, that we are far more competent in the type of real estate we're talking about than what the appraiser is. So we started off, you know, we talked about value, we talked about all of these things, and then I kind of briefly touched, but I'm going to go back to it, about talking to the appraiser. Make sure that if an appraiser calls you, make sure you call them back, okay? The feeling from the appraisers is that unless they know you personally, you're not going to return their phone call. By building up this database and giving the appraisers the information, they're able to do the valuation on your property and do it in a timely manner, okay? If we quote 6 weeks and then we can't get anybody to cooperate with us, we actually have to go back to the lender, who is our client, and ask for additional time, and we state we have not been able to confirm all the information that we're required to have. We cannot produce this report without creating a possibly misleading valuation. Because of this, we need our relationship between real estate agents and brokers and appraisers to rebuild. Anybody who was in before 1994, which means that we're ancient. I really didn't want to be in the business for 33 years. I'm horrified that I'm still doing this. When we were in before 94, we were actually able to do things together. We were not separated out away from agents versus appraisers. We went to lunch, we went to happy hour, we played softball, you know, we did everything together. And as the crunches came through each time the marketplace went down, we found that the appraisal foundation, the lenders, everybody started pushing the appraisers away from the real estate professionals. There's no way we can all be in this business and doing this without talking to each other. And one of the things that I keep hearing from people, and because many of us don't only do commercial or we don't only do residential, we cross back and forth. We hear, oh, we're not supposed to talk to the appraisers, or we're not supposed to do this. Appraisers have to ask you for information. Appraisers need to confirm all of this information and give it forth and put it in the report. And yes, we can talk to each other. Don't go in with an attitude. I actually talk about this quite often with agents, because they say the appraiser comes out and he's nasty and he won't talk to us, and said, don't talk to me, you can't talk to me. Actually, there are no rules anywhere that say that real estate agents cannot talk to the appraiser, okay? Once the appraisal is completed, that's when we can no longer speak to license holders. The thing that comes up, and I guess this is probably my last piece that I really want to touch on, is when we talk about who the client is on an appraisal. And it doesn't matter whether it's residential or commercial. Everybody always says to me, oh, the buyer paid for the appraisal, so they must be a client. Unfortunately, all of the rules that have come down through in all the mortgage reforms have said that the client has to be the lender. So when the appraiser starts to work, and when they start to write their report, and when they address the report, everything is addressed to the lender and not to your client. So if you start to have a question after the fact, because you didn't talk to them up front, you talk to them after the fact, you have to address all the questions through the lender. You can't call an appraiser directly. You have to give them the opportunity to have it go through the lender. Great question from somebody. Just asked me, if a cash buyer wants an appraisal, then the buyer would be the client. Correct. The appraisal that's done for cash buyers, either residential or commercial, is a different product because it doesn't go through federally regulated entities. So we can talk directly to the buyer. They can talk to us about different things. One thing they can't say to the appraiser is, after we're done, they can't say you screwed up the value and you need to bring it up. That's not allowed. Okay, so even if they're the buyer, they still can't try to influence the appraisers. We've been pushed so badly over the years, we tend to get a little skitsy when somebody tries to push that agenda. Okay, so how do we make sure that the appraiser does the job that we need him to do, even though we're not the client? Do an appraiser packet. There are several items that can go into an appraiser packet, and it doesn't matter whether it's residential or it's commercial. This is how you help your job, your transaction go through. And one of the things that I say is provide a copy of the contract. And people say, well, they can get that from the lender. Well, who would be better to give a copy of the contract than the person who actually wrote it up or helped negotiate it? And giving a copy of the contract to the appraiser is just a matter of I'm getting a couple statements in here. Oh, it's in chat. Okay. Okay. So I want to talk about this because this goes right along with what I'm saying. Put together a packet to the appraiser, and I had somebody ask, so would you guide us, since it's hard to get comps, how can we get the comps to get the best price opinion? You have to, somehow we have to understand that we all need to cooperate. And I think you need to go to people and say, we're required to do this BPO or a CMA when we're listing, and can I please get the information so that I can comply with state law? I find that when you remind people that we have this requirement, state law requirement, and you bring it forward to somebody, all of a sudden they're a little more cooperative with you. So you can try to get them to give you the comparables. Otherwise, you have to understand you're being hampered as to what you can do. And somebody just also said on teaching agency, who's your daddy? And great statement, because when we're talking about that appraisal and your client just paid $5,000 to get the appraisal done, and the appraiser is saying, no, you're not my client. We have to help our clients as real estate license holders to understand who the client is in all of this, okay? When you put that packet together, you're going to have all kinds of information that may not always be available. Sometimes I say you may have been into other properties. You may have actually gone into some of the other commercial properties. Give that information if you know that there's something. One of the things that I ran into was we had a sale in Austin. It was in the mid-90s, and I happened to have been the property manager in the 80s. I had been inside the property. I had seen everything. I happened to know that the tilt wall had started to fall down, and they had put bolts, L brackets and bolts, and bolted the floor to the wall and then covered it over. I knew about it. I was able to explain to the appraiser who was coming in on that property why they shouldn't consider this property to be in as good of condition as what was being stated. I had knowledge. I had firsthand knowledge, sometimes you have that knowledge as well. You can look at it, you can see it, you can confirm it. Appraisers really aren't the evil people that a lot of people believe they are. But get a contract. If you get a contract and you start working on it, give that information to your appraiser. If there's anything that you might think would affect value, please help them out and understand that you have knowledge. Okay, I've got another one. Hang on, I've got to get this moved. Okay, we talk about, the question was, other than our local MLS, what other third-party commercial sites would you recommend? Loopnet, CoStar, for accurate sold comparables. Those are the only two that I actually will go to other than MLS. So it's your local board, Loopnet, CoStar. I know that sometimes we look at the appraisal district as being evil also. Every once in a while, I've got them to give me enough information to know where to start to go find out if a property has sold. They can't give me data that confirms sales price or anything, but I can start off. I can ask them what commercial properties have sold. In rural counties, and the person who asked the question, I can't tell whether you're rural or in an urban area. If you're rural, you have to rely on word of mouth to find these comparables. And you have to be able to ask the questions, and quite often they don't want to answer you. I think we need to explain to everybody that the appraisers are required to do this, the lenders are required to use an appraiser, so we have to put the pieces together and we have to try to disclose as much information as possible. I have worked in disclosure states, and I will tell you that it's a whole lot easier to do a commercial appraisal where I can actually figure out how much something sold for. Because if you're at the local watering hole, the commercial broker's going to tell you it sold for $2 million, and if you're the appraisal district, they're going to say it sold for $1 million. And somehow we have to come up with numbers in between. I guess I'm asking for cooperation amongst everybody. We need to try to get that information in a place where everybody can use it, because otherwise, if you're not confirming this information through one of the three entities that I said, every appraiser who does an assignment that may use your comparable is going to have to call you, talk to you, confirm that information. Why do you want to get 20 phone calls? Why don't you want to put it out where it can be disclosed and confirmed? The other thing is that in the residential world, you stop at 1 year. In commercial, I've gone back 5 and 6 years to find sales, because there's in small communities where I was doing commercial appraisals, we only had one commercial building sell in a year. And to try to document, I would go back to see how many sold over the years. Okay, I've got another one. Regarding the requirement to disclose competency or lack of competency, as an experienced residential broker just starting to work in commercial is involving another broker who's already competent as a mentor. Adequate to meet the requirements, TREC requirements, in addition to taking commercial courses. Yes, the suggestion in all the different entities is that if you're not competent, going out and finding someone else who is competent, who's willing to take the time to teach you and to help you, helps out and will help defending your position in the eyes of TREC. I have somebody raising a hand and I can't see them. Do we know where they are? Mohammed, you have raised your hand and I don't. Can you type your question? Yeah. And we will try to answer it. Okay.
I'm determining that I can't just locate one.
We can't just locate
person.
one.
Yeah, they need to type a question into either the chat or the Q&A box.
Are we okay? All questions have to go into the Q&A or the chat box, or else we can't see you.
Right.
We're still testing out all of our pieces, and the ladies who are sitting beside me don't want to get called on at all. So I'm sitting up here trying to take care of all of this.
I'm not really smart enough to talk about it.
All right. So another thing that I can tell you is that not just taking courses and not just getting a competent mentor, joining groups, joining associations. I know that I have participated in some webinars through IREM, Institute of Real Estate Management. I have done some through the Appraisal Institute, and I will tell you, some of the Appraisal Institute courses can be helpful to the real estate brokers or agents. Sometimes it may talk over your head, but there's a lot of information. Okay, I have the question finally came up. Mohammed, thank you for typing that in. Can you tell us the process with the appraiser when an SBA loan is applied for? When can we contact the appraiser? The lender is the one who will provide whether you're allowed to talk to that appraiser. In commercial, typically they have to speak with the appraiser. You should be able to do it prior to the appraiser going out. I know it sounds a little bit different, but take the time to go and meet with the appraiser. Walk through the property with the appraiser, talk to them, provide them as much information as possible, because the appraiser has to rely on everybody else telling them about the property, and yet they're supposed to get this all done and taken care of in a very quick way. So Mohammed, I would be talking to the lender and saying, we want to make sure that we're able to provide the packet to the appraiser with all the information, whether it be survey or floor plans or whatever it is. Just get that information to them. And again, I'm going to tell you, there is nothing that says you can't talk to the appraiser. The biggest thing is you can't talk about value. Another, Richard Hall has asked, so disclosure is fine when possible. However, how to address increasing pushback from owners on disclosing and thereby affecting theirs and other appraisal district taxable values? I'm going to tell you right now, if you ever have the chance to help in an audit on the appraisal district, they will blow you out of the water with what they're able to do. I think as our computers get more and more technically proficient, as our databases get bigger, we're starting to see our appraisal district tax values coming closer and closer together. The legislature says that property tax values have to be based on market value. If you put out a listing out there about a commercial property, I will promise you that the appraisal district will have that listing in their files. They will be watching things. They watch Google. They watch all of the different ads. They stay up to date on this information. Each year they seem to get closer to closer. Okay. Heather Morrison is asking, when you say talking to the appraiser, which real estate agent are you referring to, the seller's agent or the buyer's agent? I'm referring to both, guys. You both can talk to that appraiser, okay? The appraiser, obviously, if you're the buyer's agent, you don't want them to pay too much, but you do want the deal to close. So if you have information, you can actually say, you know, we went and looked at this property. We were in this property over here. It was very similar to this one. However, we picked this one because it has higher vehicle count, or it has, you know, closer proximity to the airport or whatever it is. You can address that information to those appraisers. So both sides can talk to that appraiser, okay? open up that conduit. The other thing that happens is that when you talk to an appraiser, when an appraiser calls to confirm something with you, and you're nice and you give them the information, down the line when you're having a problem, you may be able to call that appraiser and say, hey, I'm not sure if you remember me. You had called and confirmed some sales with me. I'm having a little bit of an issue. Do you have any information you can help me with to try and make this appraisal come in? Do you have any comparables that you may be able to disclose? Open up the conduit again. Make it so that we talk back and forth. Okay? Do we have any other questions? Because you guys started asking some questions. Mohammed, let me see. Does the law apply to property appraisers as well as business appraisers without property? Goes both ways. Most of your fee appraisers, you're going to find very few who actually do personal property because it's such a specialized technique. Each one of the ones who do personal property are going to specialize in one particular thing, but we're all required to, as fee appraisers, we're all required to comply with the rules of the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice as put out by the Appraisal Foundation. And I would recommend, if you have not gone to the Appraisal Foundation website, you might want to go take a look. They have several brochures that they've put out for consumers, and I think that it would help out to explain to your clients who this person is who's coming out and doing this and why their value may be different from your sales price. Okay? Any other questions? Any other things that you want to say? Okay? We're towards the end of wrapping this up. Would you like to do this, Kinski?
Or I can.
Okay.
When you
we're right there.
Okay.
We're right there because I'm not seeing you.
Okay. Great.
Come on up here. I'll move over.
Last call for questions, everybody.
Last call. Oh, hang on.
No, it's fine. They don't need to see me. They all know what I
No. We have some that just popped up.
Oh, okay, great.
What other things other than a contract and sharing firsthand information? In the packet, I suggest number 1, you put in the contract. Number 2 is the survey. Number 3 are the floor plans. Number 4, if there's tenants, a list of the tenants. Possibly a breakdown of what the lease says. Any properties that they looked at. Any properties that may not be comparable. That all the information is not correct. Okay. The next question was, how much does traffic count affect the property value? It depends on what kind of property. If you are a retail facility that needs to have drive-by traffic, each different location will have a different rating for traffic. Some people want to be able to get in and out easily. You don't want high traffic counts on those. On other ones, you want people to be able to drive by and see your storefront. It all is totally dependent on the actual use of the property. Let's see, what about when a real estate agent is doing a referral for a developer who is looking for investors? Not sure I understand, but let's see. Doing a referral for developer who is looking for, okay, so you may be listing the property for a developer who's trying to find people who want to invest in something they're going to build. That's what I started out in. It was putting together a pro forma information about what possibly may be there. And where the question is does the real estate agent need to do a market analysis on the commercial property, or can the real estate agent, according to 535.17B, inform their referral to do their own due diligence? If you are working for the developer, no, you don't have to do a CMA. If you could possibly be perceived to be working for the buyers or the investors, you may be required to put together a CMA. At that point, I would probably pull out the competency card and say, at this point, I don't have enough information to do this. If you need this information, you may have to hire an appraiser or someone who is competent to do as to be built. Okay. Any other questions? You guys just threw some heavy ones in here at the last minute. I think you did that on purpose. Okay, Amy, here we go.
Okay, we'll close it out now. I got this. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for taking part and for all your great questions. That was really interesting and once again reinforced my determination that I am not nearly smart enough to sell commercial real estate. So thank you, Candy, for helping us. The next webinar in this series is going to be on September 20th. We're going to be getting an RPR update from Emily Line out in California. We are trying to get CE for this one. I hope that we can. There will be a registration link soon on the commercial webinar page. And also on there you can find the dates and a very general topic title for the upcoming webinars for the remainder of the year, and more information about those will be forthcoming as I get it. Again, if you want to take one of our webinars for CE, you have to arrange that beforehand. You get hold of John Hauser in our professional development department, and he will get you hooked up. Thank you guys very much. Oh, conference is coming up. Please come. It'll be fun. We've got a lot of great commercial stuff and some interesting commercial education happening. And I hope everybody can make it down to Galveston. Bring your sunscreen. Oh, one more.
Website address.
Website address. If you go to the TAR website, which is texasrealestate.com, look for specialties, click on commercial, and then there will be a series of links. I can't remember what the title is exactly. I think it's /commercial webinars, but just go look for the commercial specialty link on the TAR website, or you can email me. My email address is get a pen. Everybody got a pen? All right, it's agamber, AGAMBER at texasrealtors.com. Send me an email with your questions about the website and I will send you links. I'll be happy to do it. It's why they pay me the big bucks. All right. You guys have a great day. Anything else you need to throw in? All right. I hope everybody stays dry if it's raining where you are. If it's dry, I hope you get rain. Take care, y'all. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.